Screen, you can see my screen, no?
Yeah,
Yes.
Srinivasar photo, Padmavati
Yeah,
Srinivasar photo.
correct. Okay, fine. Oh. Om Srimate Ramanujaya Namaha. Shuklam Baradharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Dhyayet Sarva Vighnopashantaye Jnananandamayam Devam Nirmalasphatiकाकृतिम् Adharam Sarva Vidyanam Hayagrivamupaस्महे Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Yatpadambhoruhadhyana Vidhvasta Sheshakalmashah Vastutam Upayatoham Yamuneyam Namamitam Yo Nityamachyutapadambujayugma Rukma Vyamoha Tastaditarani Tranaya Mene Asmadguror Bhagavatosya Dayika Sindhoho Ramanujasya Charanau Sharanam Prapadye. Offering my pranamams to everybody who is in Bhagavatas assembled here, we will start the next session. In the last session, what we saw was the summary of chapter 10 of the Geetaartha Sangraha, which is Svakalyana Gunanantya Kritsna Swadhinata Matihi Bhaktyutpatti Vivruddhyartha Vistirna Dashamodita. Today we will see the 11th chapter, that is the Vishwarupa Darshana Yoga, the yoga of the universal form Vishwarupa Darshana. So this is a chapter which has 55 shlokas. So it's a reasonably big chapter, and a lot of shlokas in this chapter are in Tishtub Chandas, which is a bigger chandas than the usual Anushtub Chandas. So now the shloka, Geetaartha Sangraha shloka number 15, which is a summary of chapter number 11, Vishwarupa Darshana Yoga. Ekadashe Svayathātmya Sakshatkaravalokanam Dattamuktam Vidipraptyoha Bhaktye Kopayata Tatha. Ekadashe Svayathātmya Sakshatkaravalokanam Dattamuktam Vidipraptyoh Bhaktye Kopayata Tatha. So we'll look at the meanings of this shloka. Ekadashe in chapter 11, Sva Yathatmya Sakshatkara Avalokanam Dattam Uktam. The divine eyes needed for Avalokanam. Avalokanam is sight, seeing. So Avalokanam Dattam, the divine eyes needed for the real vision of Paramatman as he is. Sva Yathatmya, Yathatmya as he is, not in any other way. So as he is, were told and given. Yathatma Sakshatkara, for the real vision of Paramatman as he is, were told, the divine eyes were told and given to Arjuna by Lord Krishna. Tatha Vidipraptyoh Bhakti Eka Upayata Uktam. Bhakti Eka Upayata. That it was said that bhakti is the only means to attain the knowledge of Paramatman and to see him in the Vidipraptyoh, in the way which is described. So, Swayathatmya Sakshatkara Avalokanam, the divine vision of the Paramatman by the divine eyes which Lord Krishna gave to Arjuna, by that Arjuna saw the Vishwarupa Darshana, and in the same way, Bhakti Eka Upayata was also mentioned, was also told as the means of to attain the Paramatman, to see him, to have a vision of Paramatman in the way which was described in this particular chapter. In chapter 11, it is stated that the divine eyes which give a vision of the Paramatman as he is, as Yathatmya, as he is, not in a different way, were told and given to Arjuna by Lord Krishna, and accordingly it was told that bhakti is the only means of knowing and attaining him in the way which is described. So Swami Vedanta Deshikar in the Gita, that is Geetaartha Sangraha Raksha book, he gives a short paragraph on this chapter, and he quotes from the Bhagavad Gita Ramanujacharya Bhashya, which we'll see in the coming slides. First he says, Sakshatkara Hetu Bhutam Avalokanam. That is Sakshatkara Avalokanam. Sakshatkara Hetu Bhutam Avalokanam means the Avalokana, the Sakshatkara Hetu Bhutam, which is the cause for the sight, which is the cause for the vision of the realization of the Paramatman, for the seeing of the Paramatman through his own eyes. That is the Sakshatkara Hetu Bhutam Avalokanam. Avalokyate anena iti avalokanam iha divya chakshushu. So divya chakshu, that is the divine eyes, were given to Arjuna by Lord Krishna, because Krishna says divyam dadami te chakshuho pashyame yogameshwaram. He says natumam shakyase drashtum anenaiva svachakshusha. So you will not be able to see, O Arjuna, you will not be able to see me through this charma chakshus, which is the eyes which are made of a flesh, usual flesh and blood. That kind of eyes you cannot see. I'll give you divine pair of eyes by which you can see. And it's also implied, because it's not mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, but because Sanjaya also has a vision of the Vishwarupa Darshana, because Sanjaya also describes the Vishwarupa Darshana, which happens in front of, as though happening in front of him. So Sanjaya also got the divine eyes, is what we can make out. So this is the Vishwarupa Darshana. I've shown you the picture which comes in the standard available Vishwarupa Darshana photo. So there I'll point you out some important shlokas from the Vishwarupa Darshana chapter. So shloka number 12 is where Sanjaya says, so he says, Divi Surya Sahasrasya Bhaved Yukabaduthita Yadi Bhas Sadrishi Sasyat Bhasastasya Mahatmanaha, is what he says. So imagine 1,000 suns rising in the sky at the same time, Yugapat, at the same time 1,000 suns are rising in the sky. How much brightness will be seen? That brightness was seen in the Vishwarupa Darshana. So we are seeing in the even one sun in the sky, we are not able to directly focus on the sun and see that much brightness is there. If 1,000 suns come in the sky at the same time, whatever brightness will come, how will it be is a question. And if it is ordinary human eyes, we will not be able to make out anything, because everything will be washed out. It will be completely white everywhere. So that is why Divyam Chakshus is required for Arjuna, because he has to be able to discern the Vishwarupa Darshana, all the Aneka Bahu Dara Vaktanetram, so many hands, so many faces, so many eyes, so many mouths, so many stomachs, so many legs, so many thighs, so many hands, feet, etc. So because he has to make out all the things, that's why Divya Chakshus is required for Arjuna, is what we can infer. And then in the shloka number 23, when Arjuna starts seeing the Vishwarupa Darshana, what happens is, in shloka 23 he says, Rupam Mahatte Bahuvaktra Netram Mahabaho Bahurupadam Bahudaram Bahudamshtra Karalam Drishtva Lokaha Pravyatitaha Tathaham. On looking at your Vishwarupa Darshana, see the Vishwarupa Darshana, whichever Lord Krishna is showing, everybody is seeing, all the sages, the Vasus, the Rudras, the Adityas, everybody is watching at the Vishwarupa Darshana with wonder. And at the same time, they are also Lokaha Pravyatitaha Bahu Damshtra Karalam, which kind of cruel kind of teeth, fierce kind of teeth the Vishwarupa Darshana is having. All the lokas are looking with fear, pravyatitaha and tathaham. Even I am also getting afraid by looking at the Vishwarupa. In the beginning of this chapter, Arjuna himself wanted to see the Vishwarupa Darshana because after having heard of the glories of Lord Krishna, the Vaibhava of Lord Krishna in the chapter 10, he wanted to see Vishwarupa Darshana. He only asked for it. But after seeing this fierce form, he got afraid. Pravyad lokaha pravyadhitaha tatha ahamapi pravyadhitaha. That's what he says. Then in sloka number 24, he says, Deeptam aneka varnam means nabhasprisham deeptam aneka varnam vyaptananam deepta vishala netram. So all the mouths, we can see the mouths of the Vishwarupa Darshana are having flames in their mouths. So these are all the deepta, that is the jvalana which is happening, and all the Kauravas, all entire army, 18 Akshavini Sainya is getting into those mouths, those fierce mouths, and getting like chewed up like anything. It says, Churnitaihi Uttamangaihi is what he says. Then in sloka number 30, Krishna says in sloka number 30, one second, when Arjuna is seeing, he says, Lelihyase grasamanas samantat lokan samagran vadanaihi jwaladbihi. As I told you, the fierce flames coming from the mouth, you are actually licking up all the whole universe. Just like somebody enjoys honey, the taste of honey, they lick the honey. Like that, he's lelihyase is what Krishna is Arjuna is telling. Somebody takes Prasha, they take and lick it in the tongue. Like that, you are licking up all the worlds. Lokan samagran vadanaihi jwaladbihi lelihyase is what Arjuna says. I am showing you only very few slokas of the Vishwarupa Darshana because it's a reasonably big chapter and we have little time. And in the 31st shloka, he says, and Arjuna gets angry, gets afraid, as I told you. So when Arjuna is afraid, he is wondering who is Krishna. Then he says, Akhyahime ko bhavan ugrarupo. Who are you, O Ugrarupa? Who are you? Tell me. Namostute devavara prasida Akhyahime. Tell me who you are. I'm not able to know who you are. You are the Krishna who was sitting next to me in the chariot. Now you are like this. Who are you? You please tell me who you are. And he says, and then at that time, Lord Krishna says this shloka, Kalosmi loka kshayakrit pravriddhaha lokan samahartum iha pravrittaha ritepi tvam na bhavishyanti sarve eva sthitaha pratyanikeshu yodhaha. Means Kalosmi, Kalaha asmi, Loka Kshayakrit Pravriddhaha means I am the world devouring time, Kala. Manifesting myself fully, I have begun to destroy the worlds here. So, Ritepi Tvam na bhavishyanti, without you also, even without you, none of the warriors who are arrayed here in the ranks, in the field, in the battlefield, will survive, is what he says. Yevasthitaha nabhavishyanti sarve. Nobody will survive, even if you don't wage the war. If you run away from the war, all the people, the soldiers, and every living being sitting in this war field will never survive, even without you. I have already started the destruction process, is what Krishna is telling. Kalosmi loka kshayakrit pravriddhaha. Then, in shloka number 35 of the Vishwarupa Darshana chapter, Arjuna says, okay, I have this slide here. Krishna says, Mayaivaite nihatah purvameva nimitta matram bhava savyasachin. So nimitta matram bhava savyasachin is a very important statement which is quoted by many acharyas. So you are only an instrument, you are only a nimitta. Maya eva ete nihataha purvameva. By me, all these people have already been killed purvameva, before itself. They are already slain already. You are only an instrument, O Arjuna, is what Krishna says. And then some two more slokas. Okay, sloka number 43 and 44. Bhagavad Ramanuja has quoted in the Sharanagati Gadyam. So 43rd shloka is, I have not printed in the screen, but 43rd shloka is Pitasi lokasya characharasya Tvamasya pujyasya gurur gariyan na tvat samostyabhyadikah kutonyah lokatrayepya pratima prabhava. So the meaning of this shloka is Pitasi lokasya characharasya. One second. You are the father of this whole universe. All things, chara and achara, the moving and the inert. You are the most revered preceptor. Your glory is unmatched in all the three words. No, who could surpass it? Nobody can surpass it. And the next sloka, 43rd sloka, he says, Tvamas tasmat pranamya pranidhaya kayam prasadaye tva mahamisha medium piteva putrasya sakheva sakyuho Priya Priyaya Rasi Deva Sodhum. Therefore, I bow down my head and prostrate to you, seeking your pardon, O Lord. Kindly pardon me as a father, Piteva Putrasya, as a father forgives his son. One forgives his friend or a lover or forgives his beloved, is what Arjuna quotes, and what Sri Ramanujacharya quotes in the in the Gadyatraya. Then in shlok, there is one kind of chamatkara, one ascharya in the shlokas 46 and 51. In shloka 46, Krishna, one second, in shloka 46, Arjuna says, Tenaiva rupena chaturbhujena sahasrabhavo baho bhava vishwamurte, which means Arjuna asked Krishna to withdraw the Vishwarupa Darshana, withdraw the Vishwarupa and come back to his normal form. What kind of form? Tenaiva rupena chaturbhujena. You come to the four-handed form, is what Arjuna says in the 46th shloka of this chapter. So you withdraw the form onto yourself and come in the four-handed form. Then in the shloka 51, the same Arjuna says, Drishtvedam Manusham Rupam, he says, Tava Somyam Janardana. So when Krishna has withdrawn the Vishwarupa Darshana and has come back to original form, he says Manusham Rupam. Manusham Rupam means human form. Human form will have only two hands. So just 5 shlokas earlier, he told about Chaturbhujayana, 4 hands. And just 5 shlokas later, he's telling Manusham Rupam. So how do you reconcile this? This is one Acharya which people discuss. So the one particular resolution is like this. When Lord Krishna was born, he had 4 hands. Tamadbhutam, Balakam, Ambujekshanam, Chaturbhujam, and all comes in the Bhagavata, Dashama Skanda, in the 3rd chapter of the Dashama Skanda, when Devaki gives birth to Krishna, Lord Krishna, in the Kamsa's jail. Then Devaki at that time does a stuti. She does a prayer to Lord Krishna, and she says, withdraw the 4 arms and make yourself into 2-armed child, is what Devaki says, because Kamsa will come and kill you, therefore you withdraw your form. Devaki still doesn't know that Krishna is all powerful, that child is all powerful. So she asks him to withdraw 2 of the arms and become only a 2-handed child, like an ordinary child. So it is said that till the slaying of Kamsa's slaying happens in the 44th chapter of the Dashama Skanda of the Bhagavata. From chapter 3 to chapter 44 of the Bhagavata, Dashama Skanda, Krishna is having only 2 hands, is what is told. And then after Kamsa is slayed, then he starts having, at some times he has 4 hands and sometimes he has 2 hands. So that's what is told. So that's why it is not a contradiction that Arjuna says Chaturbahu and at the same time Arjuna says Manusham Rupam, is what some Vyakhyanakaras say. Now I want to focus, already we are running out of time. I want to focus on one particular shloka, that is the 55th shloka, that is the last shloka of the Vishwarupa Darshana chapter, which according to Shankaracharya is the most important, it's the essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita. Shankaracharya says that shloka 11th chapter 55th shloka is the even if you don't read any other shloka in the Bhagavad Gita, you should read this shloka. That's the kind of meaning which Shankaracharya gives in the Bhashya. So what is that shloka? Mat karma krit mat paramaha Madbhakta Sangavarjitaha Nirvaira Sarvabhuteshu Yasamameti Pandava is the shloka. If everybody follows this particular shloka, that's the entire essence of the Bhagavad Gita is covered, is what Shankaracharya feels. Now let us see what Sri Ramanujacharya says in his bhashya for this particular shloka. Matkarma Krit is one who performs all karmas for Paramatman's sake only, for Krishna's sake only. Mat Paramaha has Paramatman only as the ultimate goal. Mat Paramaha. Mad Bhaktaha has Bhakti only in Paramatman. Sangha Varjitaha has detached himself from all other things. And Nirvaira Sarvabhuteshu has no enmity with any being on this earth. Such a person, Mam Eti, such a person attains Paramatman. So this is one shloka which tells all the rules which we have to follow in order to attain Paramatman. So first is perform all karmas for the sake of Paramatma only. Point number 1. Mat Paramaha has Paramatma only as the ultimate goal. Third one, Madbhaktaha has bhakti in Paramatman only, in nobody else. And Sangavarjitaha has detached himself from all the worldly things like money and car and bungalow and these kind of things, jewelry and all these things. And Nirvaira Sarvabhuteshu has no enmity towards any living being, any being at all, has no enmity towards anybody. Such a person attains Paramatman. Very, very strict, very tough conditions. It's got Krishna posts here, but this is what is to be done in order to attain Paramatman, is what the Bhashyakara say. Let us look at the Ramanujacharya Bhashya for this particular shloka. So what he says is, Mat karma krit, he gives the meaning first. Vedadhyayanadini sarvani karmani mat aradhana rupani iti yah karoti. So, one who performs all karmas, such as the study of the Vedas, Vedadhyayanadini sarvani karmani, all the karmas, studies of Vedas, even like karma, like day-to-day karma, like going to office, doing the official work, everything, are done with the idea that they are all forms of my worship, and Paramatman's worship. Such a person is Mat Karma Krit. That is point number 1. Next, Mat Paramaha is Sarvesham Arambhanam Ahameva Paramodeshyo Yasya Saha Mat Paramaha. One who has Paramatman as the ultimate goal of all acts that he has started to perform. All the acts which he started to commence to do, everything Paramatman is the only goal, ultimate goal of all those things, is that person is Mat Paramaha. Next, Mad Bhaktaha. Atyartha Matpriyatvena Mat Kirtana Stuti Dhyana Archana Pranamadibhihi Vina Atmadharanam Alabhamanah Madeka Prayojanataya Yaha Satatam Tani Karoti Saha Madbhaktaha. He is Atma Dharanam Alabhamanaha, he says. Without all these things, a devotee of Paramatman is one who just cannot sustain himself without involving in, that is Kirtana, that is chanting the names, Stuti, praying, Dhyana, meditating, Pranamadi, prostrating to Paramatman with extreme loving devotion. Pranamadibi Vina Atyartha Matpriyatvena, with extreme, not just doing for the sake of doing these things, but with extreme bhakti bhava is what he does. If he does this with extreme loving devotion and does all these things all the time, and he cannot support himself without doing these things. Even for a moment, if he is not doing these things, he cannot support his body. That kind of feeling, if somebody has, then that person is Madbhaktaha, Paramatman's Bhakta. Then Sangavarjitaha is Madeka Priyatvena Itara Sangam Asahamanaha. So there is a saying, Paramatmani Yoraktaha viraktaha aparamatmani is what it says. So a person who is engaged only is who is asakti only in Paramatman, he does not have asakti in anything other than Paramatman. So none of the worldly things will attract him. One who cannot tolerate attachment to anything other than Paramatman, as Paramatman is only the most dear to him, is Sanga Varjitaha. So we saw the first four words in the shloka: Matkarma Krit, Matparamaha, Madbhaktaha, Sanga Varjitaha. We saw the four words. Now we have to see Nirvaira Sarvabhuteshu. That Ramanujacharya gives a very beautiful explanation, which we will see. Nirvaira Sanga Sarvabhuteshu is Mat Samshlesha Viyoga Eka Sukha Dukha Swabhavat. So, what kind of swabhava the person has? Due to thinking that his only grief, the grief of disassociation with me. So, tadeka sukha dukha swabhavatvat. So, association with Paramatman is the only joy, and disassociation with Paramatman is the only grief. That kind of feeling he will have. Because of that, swadukkhasya swa aparadha nimittatvanusandhanachcha. Because if he gets any worldly sorrow, like something happens, he loses money, he loses some near and dear people, he will think that these are all depend because of my past karmas only. Whatever past karma in this life or in some previous life, whatever I have done, because of that only I am getting this sukha, this dukkha, whatever sorrow I am getting. So my only grief is disassociation from Paramatman, and my only joy, only happiness is association with Paramatman. That kind of feeling you will have. Next, Sarvabhutanam Paramapurusha Paratantratvanusandhanacha. He thinks that, see, suppose there are some people in this world who are favorable to us, who act favorably to us, and some people who don't act favorable to us, who act like enemy to me. So, Parama Purusha, the Supreme Lord who is there, he's seated in the as the Antaryami of even the wicked fellow and also the good fellow. And therefore, these people, the actually Chetana who is doing it, the actual person who is doing it, is a not a Swatantra. He is Paratantra to Paramatman. Paramatman sitting as Antaryami is making him behave like that. That kind of feeling this person will have. So Sarvabhuteshu Vaira Nimittatva Abhavat. Because of this, he will have no enmity to anybody in this world. Even if the worst wicked fellow comes, he causes injury, physical injury, mental injury, whatever kind of injury he causes, this person will be will not have him as an enemy, will not treat him as enemy. Evam sa evam bhutah samam eti. Such person will attain me, will attain Paramatman. Mam yathavat avasthitam prapnoti. He will attains me as I am in totality. Nirasta avidyadi ashesha dosha gandho madeka anubhavo bhavati ityartha. Having got rid of all the defects of the nature of nations and others, he experiences Paramatman alone. We'll look at that shloka one more time. That shloka is like this: Matkarma Krit, Mat Paramaha, Madbhakta Sangavarjitaha, Nirvaira Sarvabhuteshu, Yasamameti Pandava. Now, I want to introduce you to one book which Sri Rangapriya Mahadeshikan Swami has written. I mean, based on his lectures, they have compiled a book called Vishwarupa Darshana in Kannada. It's available in the Ashtanga Yoga Vidya Mandira website. You can purchase it. If you are in India, you can purchase. If you can read Kannada, you can purchase it. This is a beautiful book on the complete, only Vishwarupa Darshana itself, that 11th chapter itself. There is this book written by Sri Rangapriya Mahadeshikan Swami. I had the fortune of being the student of Sri Rangapriya Deshikan when he was in his Purvashrama days, when he was teaching in National College in Baswangudi. So I was also a Sanskrit student at that time. So this book is available, Vishwarupa Darshana book. You can purchase it and read it. Now come to the end of this session. Ekadashesva yathatmya sakshatkaravalokhanam datta muktam vidhi praptyo bhakti ekopayata tatha. So this completes the 11th chapter summary. If you have any questions and if I can answer, then I will try to answer. Otherwise, we can go for the chanting session. We have to chant chapter 20, 16th chapter. We have to chant today. I hope it was useful to you, this 11th chapter discussion.
Yes, yes, very useful. Very interesting also.
Okay, I'll just finish the prayer and close the recording, and we'll start the chanting. वसुदेव सुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं सर्वं श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तसन्मङ्गलानि भवन्तु श्रीमते रामानुजाय नमः.